You are now listening to the Outsiders Sports Show right here on The Hog, the most comprehensive and hard-hitting sports hour on radio today. And now, coming at you with their unabashed sports magnetism, here are your hosts, Clint, Switzer, and Noah Groniger.
And the Outsiders Sports Show is live. Welcome, everyone. Clint, Switzer, and Noah Groniger. So happy to be joining you. Happy holidays as we enter this wonderful, blessed season. And I just hope everybody out there that is listening has a wonderful and happy and safe holiday season. We are joining you, going to be talking about all things poignant in sports, as we're going to be talking Chiefs and Raiders with former Raider George Atkinson. Also, former Mizzou guard Jarrett Sutton is going to be coming on later to preview Mizzou and Illinois. The bragging rights game's coming up today. Big-time game, big-time non-conference action here in college basketball. And then Jeff Herrod going to be helping us preview Chiefs and Colts. Noah, is that enough for you or what, buddy?
I want a little bit more, but I think that's going to do. I love Jeff Herrod, love George Atkinson. Can't believe we get him on again. Legend for the Oakland Raiders, breaking down what happened. Crazy game last week between the Chiefs and Raiders, where the Raiders come back. Looks like the Chiefs are going to let the game go, but the Chiefs prevail.
The Chiefs actually blew the Raiders out twice in one game, really,
by
getting a big lead early, letting it slip away, and then blowing them out again as the game 56-31. And we're so lucky. We're going to have George on for 2 segments here coming up, guys. Going to get right into it because we got a lot to talk about with George, so we're going to bring him on in just a few minutes. But the Chiefs right now, winners of 2 straight again after dropping 3 against 2 very bad teams, 2 very questionable quarterbacks. The Chiefs get back on track, though. Offense is really playing well. Jamal Charles with just an unbelievable game, 195 yards receiving, 5 touchdowns total against the Raiders. Noah, this guy's got to be talked about for NFL MVP. I wrote an article similar that stated just that this week, and my gosh, this guy's just carrying the load right now. He is unbelievable.
Yeah, he's the entire offense. You dump it off to him, he takes it to the house. You hand it off to him, takes it to the house. Whatever you need Jamal Charles to do, he does it. It's hard to believe that he's not run into the ground by now. We've been using him all season. He's been carrying the load all season, and he still looks 100% healthy, raring to go, and good as ever.
Yeah, he's taking it on a superhuman-like load. He's touched the ball over 300 times this year. Leads all NFL running backs in receiving yards, receptions, touchdowns with 7. I mean, this guy, he's got to be up there. When you talk about NFL MVP, Jamal Charles and Peyton Manning, and to me, there's no one else. And I think Peyton Manning's going to win the award. Don't get me wrong. But I think Charles is as important to this Chiefs team as Peyton Manning is to the Broncos.
Yeah, Peyton Manning is going to set records, and everybody's looking at him. Sportsman of the Year is Peyton Manning, so he's probably going to win the MVP. But Jamal Charles, I think, deserves it. Peyton Manning has enough of those up on his mantle. I'll give Jamal Charles one. But this defense going on the other side of the ball really dropped the ball during that game and has for the past few weeks now. The secondary looks lost. They were even carved up by Matt McGloin, although the Raiders did have 7 turnovers, but they did get the game back within 4 when they got it to 35-31, even switching out quarterbacks. Quarterback by committee, that doesn't really work, and it didn't in that game, but they did get enough points and made it a close one for a while.
I thought the Raiders, if Terrell Pryor was going to be healthy, that they should have went with him. I think Matt McGloin, he has a pretty good release. Is somewhat accurate. I mean, I know the guy threw 4 interceptions, but the Chiefs secondary had some opportunistic moments again, stuff that we haven't seen in the last month or so. But yet at the same time, within the course of the same game, got absolutely torched by this very average Raiders receiving corps. There's some name. The Raiders have a couple guys out there that I do really like, but really the Chiefs defense is going to have to improve as this team gets now to 11-3. Technically still tied with the Denver Broncos for first place in this division. They're not going to win it. Denver's going to win this division. The Denver Broncos would have to lose one of their final 2. Chiefs are going to have to win out. But this Colts game is going to be big in deciding that for the Chiefs, and we want to go back and talk about this Raiders game with one of our favorite guests, George Atkinson. George, the former Raider, welcome to the show. And George, so great to have you on once again. Always our go-to guy talking Chiefs Raiders. Tough one this week for the Oakland Raiders. The Silver and Black fall to 4-10. Probably not a lot of good things you can take from that game, huh, George?
Not at all. And you were looking for the Raiders to play a competitive game, and at times they did. But Kansas City just dominated the game. Well, when the score doesn't indicate what they actually did. I mean, they dominated the game. George Charles went crazy when
Yeah, Jamal Charles, you said that was the one guy they have to stop, and he had 195 yards receiving, 20 yards rushing, 5 touchdowns. You said if you had to relay that to Dennis Allen, something's wrong. I don't think you did relay that to Dennis Allen, so obviously something is wrong because he couldn't figure it out. So maybe we can get you in there as head coach. What do you think, George?
No way. That's the job I would not have. I love the game, and I love talking about the game from a perspective, and I have opinions like everybody. And I enjoy having the opportunity to express my opinion. But as far as head coach, no way. I mean, that's the job that, hey, I have a lot of respect for those guys who are head coaches.
Well, looking forward, I mean, as the Raiders fall to 4-10, do you feel that the Raiders should be going forward with Dennis Allen, or I mean, is it time to really look, at the organization in the mirror? We know since L. Davis passed away, there's been some changes, been some positive changes. The front office there looks like it's getting better. But is it time to really look at the head coach and say we need to go somewhere else with that position?
And you're right. For answer that, you're right. They have made some positive changes. I think some positive things have been done, and I think also that there's some players there that you can build a nucleus with and around, and bring in a number of veteran players to help. It's through free agency because you have some cap room now, some cap money. You mix and match and get some good draft choices in. Dennis Allen. Now to answer your question about him is will he be fired or not? I don't know what his contract reads for one thing, and definitely you have to take into consideration the fact that this season was just not productive, and you can say maybe it's personnel, or maybe it's a combination of both personnel and coaching. And I'm pretty sure that'll be looked at heavy by Mark Davis and Reggie McKenzie, and whatever changes that need to be made, they'll make those changes, especially for the betterment of the team. And in this league, you gotta win, and this team has not won in a while, and I mean it's getting to a point where things have to change.
Well, we saw Matt McGloin. He threw 4 interceptions in the game. Obviously, turnovers were so key in this particular game. How did you feel about the Raiders going with McGloin? Terrell Pryor was available, came in and played a little bit. He threw an interception himself as well. But do you feel like that Terrell Pryor should have been the guy going into that game?
That's what I would like to have seen. I think he has the most upside of the two because of his athleticism and the fact that, he's a big, tall guy. As you see, McGloin gets a lot of his passes knocked down, and he has problems seeing downfield at times. So, because of his height, his athleticism, I think he's the guy that you're worth putting some time in and some effort in to help develop into a top-notch quarterback. And when you look around the league and you look at guys who come into the league with the athletic ability as Terrell Pryor has, it takes them a minute to adjust. But there's been some success with those type players in this league. And I think he's a guy who could make things happen for the Raiders, because one thing you notice when he does start, the team responds to him and the players respond to him. And he definitely has leadership quality, and the guy, he set a record for the Raiders with the longest run from scrimmage and 96 yards. So, there's some upside there that can keep defenses off guard, and I think it just has to be developed.
And sit tight. We're going to have more with our friend George Atkinson right here after the break on The Hog. Welcome back to The Hog, and George Atkinson is still on the line with us, still talking Chiefs and Raiders.
How far away do you think the Raiders are on the offensive side of the football? It looks like they have some nice pieces there in the running game with Rashad Jennings, Marcel Reese. The passing game, I really like Rod Streeter and Andre Holmes that you have there. So how far off do you think they are?
Not that far. Player-wise, I think maybe got to have another running back. Definitely, the quarterback situation is up in the air. And like any good, strong offensive team, it always starts up front. And I think maybe another solid tackle, one more good, solid
Well, I wanted to ask you how frustrating and disappointing it is as a former Raider legend playing for them, and now as a fan and a guy covering the game. How disappointing is it from 2002? They lose the Super Bowl to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and it's been a steady downfall since then.
Very disappointing. Everybody want to see their team win, or just see them be competitive. And right now the Raiders, especially in the division, haven't been competitive for a few years. And I think that's something what the fans will want to see. And, they want to see a good team on the field. And I think it's the commitment that Mark Davis has made that he's going to put eventually a good team on the field. And I also think Reggie McKenzie feels the same way. Now, what does that mean? Well, only time will tell. Well, it means that the head coach, as you said, may get fired. Who knows? That's up to the powers that be. But they are committed to winning, and I think you see some changes made this offseason.
I want to ask you about the concept of embracing the silver and black, embracing the shield, because I just saw a special that featured you and Len Dawson and some former Chiefs and Raiders players talking about the Chiefs-Raiders rivalry and talking about the Ben Davidson spike on Len Dawson, stuff like that. It seems like that you guys in your era played with such a purpose, and you were such a respected team, kind of going off that bad boy image. Do you feel that in the modern day football that the players going to Oakland are not quite embracing that image that you guys had back in the 60s and 70s?
Well, they can't play the way we played. For one thing, the rules won't allow that nowadays. And the kind of hits we used to make, and the kind of plays that we made defensively. The techniques have changed because of the rule change, so they cannot play the way we played. I was talking to Cedric Hardman today, as a matter of fact, and we were talking about that. And one of the things he said is that, hey, that aggressive mentality is not in the league anymore, and that's because of the rule change, not because of the players, because I think the guys who play the game, they want to play it aggressively. That's the way it's supposed to be played. But there are rule changes to protect the players that have legislated hitting out of football, basically. So, it wouldn't be a fair comparison to compare the teams of the 70s with the teams of today, because our brand of football was altogether different. I'm not talking about just the Raiders. I'm talking about across the league. It was like that. So everybody took pride in hitting and making big hits. That was part of the league's image. And now, and I understand it. You got to protect guys. But 70s is a lost art. Some of the techniques that we use, the man coverage, you see guys turning and just running out without any, the defensive back, you turn and run, it means that, come on. You asking a receiver to play behind your back. That's, we were always taught, keep the receiver in front, stay square, and break and make a break or after he gives you a stab. And, you don't see that. You don't see the art of bump and run technique anymore. You see guys getting up and bump run technique, but they turn and run. And it's like, I don't understand that technique, but, that's what you got today.
Is that why you've turned down this Oakland Raiders head coaching position if it becomes open? Because you'd be teaching the forearm shiver to the neck.
A lot of other things.
Lynn Swan is very glad that the game has changed the way it has, George. Lynn Swan is grateful that they've changed the rules.
For offensive players out here, you can't blame them. It gives them a longer career and makes it quite easy for them to catch passes. It was not acceptable for a guy to run through the middle of your second catching ball. That did not apply during the era I played in. And, it was something that every team did. It's not just the Raiders. That was part of it. You don't catch passes over the middle and get away with it for long. And today, that's what guys make a living over the middle.
Well, I got to ask you about this Chiefs team going forward. Of course, the Kansas City Chiefs started 9-0, lost 3 straight games, 2 of them to division rival Denver, but have now won a couple games. Their identity seems to have flipped. This was a defense that was elite early on, And now all of a sudden, the Chiefs' defense looks like it has slid a little bit, but all of a sudden, Alex Smith, Jamal Charles, and the Chiefs' offense is playing well. What do you make of this Chiefs team going forward, and how good can they be?
Well, football is a team effort, and when the defense is playing bad, the offense has to step up. When the offense is playing bad, the defense has to step up. Special teams have to be consistent all the time. And, the one thing I think that makes a great football team is that you balance each other out. When the defense is playing bad, the offense has to put points on the board. When the defense is playing good, the offense still has to put points on the board. But when you got the two in conjunction and working together, where the defense is 1, 2, 3 and out, and the offense is 1, 2, 3 and 6, hey, that's the best of all worlds. But right now, definitely, and you have that with good teams. There'll be a period in the season where the defense will dominate. Then there'll be a period in the season where the offense will have your chance to dominate. So that's what makes a great football team, is that you get that balance. When one's not playing well, the other one steps up.
How much do the Raiders focus on the middle part of the game when the Chiefs had the big lead and then the Raiders stormed back 35-31 within 4 points, and they just throw out the beginning and the end of the game where it got a little ugly for them?
Yeah, it seemed like once they made that rush to get back in the game, they kind of let down, and Kansas City picked up. Because it went from a 4-point lead with something like 4 minutes and 58 seconds in the third to just a complete blowout by the end of the game. So Kansas City did what they had to do, and the Raiders didn't. And, the Raiders played well at times, and I'm pretty sure every game you try to take the positives and work on those and take the negatives and definitely get them out of the way. But, Kansas City just dominated the Raiders the second half. And there was a lull that they had when the Raiders made that surge to get within 4 points. What was it? 31-35?
Yeah.
At one point, and then the Chiefs just took off. And, that's what you have to do. The Raiders didn't respond to the points that the Chiefs were able to put on the board. You got to answer that. You got to come back. If your defense playing bad and the Raiders defense playing horrible, Charles just went. I don't know, what did he have rushed?
Only had 20. I think 20 on the ground, but then 195 in the air. So yeah, they stopped the run, certainly.
Yeah, 5 touchdowns.
That's right.
And I think 3 of those came on third down in a long play.
Yep.
So
lots of screen
those are the
plays.
things. Yeah, right. And those are the things that you think that your defense will be aware of, because it's nothing new. That's what they've done with him all year. I think when I was on your show at the beginning, I said that he's the one guy the Raiders will have to stop, because he was 75% of the offense. And he proved that he was definitely the guy that they needed to stop, but they didn't.
Yeah, absolutely. And one thing in watching the game yesterday, and Noah and I really wanted to come out to Oakland. We wanted to come out to the game. We weren't able to make that happen. We definitely hope we can in the future. But just watching the game inside the stadium, the empty seats, the upper level's been tarped off. Do you believe that it's time for Oakland to look in to try to get a new stadium somewhere down there and to try to get this?
Oh man, come on! You can't compete without a new stadium.
Absolutely.
It's hard to compete. It's hard to compete in the NFL unless you have the facility, a nice facility to play in, where you can attract, the dollars for the suites and what have you. But definitely, this team needs the new stadium. The baseball team needs the new stadium. Well, will they get one? Who knows? But it definitely has a factor, I think, in pro sports, is to have yourself a good stadium. It's a big factor for you. The revenue keeps you going. It allows you to get the good players, the whole bit. And with the stadium that the Raiders have, their revenue right now is down, probably the worst in the league right now. And it's directly related to the old stadium. That's the stadium we played at back in the day. And Tampa knew it. Everybody else has gotten a new stadium, but it was San Francisco and the Raiders, but San Francisco stepped up. Now it's the Raiders.
Well, if George Atkinson requests it, I'm sure it will get done immediately.
It's got to happen.
Yeah, right. I've already requested. Nothing yet.
We'll try to fast line that to Reggie McKenzie. We'll make this happen, George. We gotta, because the outsiders here, Clint and Noah, we gotta come out and hang out with you and do a game one of these years. But I don't know, we both kind of fear for our lives coming out to that Coliseum. I know you would probably keep us safe, but it's still a game.
Man, you got some of the nicest people in the world go to those games. This stadium is not as bad as it's been put out to be. At one point, certainly there was some issues, but that has straightened out. I think your organization has done a tremendous job as far as making it not only safe, but family friendly. And they've done tremendous campaigns. You don't hear about the Raiders having problems anymore. At one point, there were some issues without a doubt, but that has, I think, straightened itself out, and the fans appreciate each other, and that's the main thing, is that you got to have your fans respect each other and not go crazy because of whatever. And I think that the organization has done a tremendous job population-wise as far as straightening out the issues that were at one time a problem.
Well, George, we talked to you last week. Of course, your twin sons play football at Notre Dame. Just you must be such a proud father, and I'm sure that a week later that you've now warmed up to the idea of heading to New York for this bowl game, Pinstripe Bowl. George, we know you're excited. No, just kidding you there, but I know that you had some things to say about the bowl game and about Notre Dame, and
you're trying to steer it up. Go ahead and steer it up. I don't care. Listen, I'm not going. It's too cold. I just got back from New York. I've already talked to my sons. I'm not going to make that trip. I just got back, and I'm at that point in my life where cold weather affects me.
Yeah, I mean, you're one to talk, George. We're here in Kansas City, and it is 22 outside right about now. George, you basking in all the sunshine in California. We just can't take that from you, George, because you're kind of a lucky one.
I love warm weather, so I watch them on television and welcome them home the day after.
Well,
they finish, but no, I'm not going to that one. I wish them luck. I was looking at, their overall schedule this season, and they just petered out so bad this year. I mean, when you look at a 12-0 team, then they dropped to 8-4 and lost to 3 ranked teams. They lost to Oklahoma, lost to Michigan and Stanford, and beat 1 ranked team, who was Arizona State, but turned around and lost to an unranked team. So, you have your concerns about whether they are going backwards or what's going to happen. Then you lose both your coordinators. I mean, that's got to be somewhat of a setback. You got to go out and I think if you hire from within, you're not going to get that much better. In order to get better, you have to go out and get somebody who is what you consider one of the best offensive coordinators or defense coordinators. And I think that it's a lot of rebuilding this team has to do. They got talent, but it don't seem like they're getting the max out of their talent.
Well, George, we'll definitely be watching. We're very proud of your sons, very proud to know you, and I'll tell you what, we just can't thank you enough, George. I'll tell you what, this has been another great season to be able to talk to you, and your insight is so welcomed here. We say it all the time, even when you're not listening, that you are our favorite guest to bring on. We talk to the Sean Salisburys, the Jeff Chadias, the current and former players, all through the week. You are by far our favorite guest, and can't thank you enough. We really wish you a happy holiday season. Hope you have a great Christmas and all that, and just hope you stay warm as well, if that's the one Christmas present we can give you.
Trust me, I will stay warm.
Well,
that's for sure. That's a choice that I can make.
Well, I tell you what, let's not go a whole nother off season without chatting, man. We got to have you back on. Keep in touch.
And I just want to say I've enjoyed myself, being on your show. And I like interacting with you and your fans. So hey, keep me on the hotline.
Oh yeah, you betcha. We will absolutely be doing that, and we'll
Speed dial number 1.
Speed dial number 1, George Atkinson, man. I tell you what, we cannot thank you enough, George. You have a wonderful holiday season, and we will definitely be in touch. Just have a great one, my man.
You too, man. Same to both of you. You and yours. Happy holidays.
You betcha, George. Thanks a lot.
Take care, George. Thank you.
All right.
Oh, Noah, so great to hear from George. I cannot even fathom the thought of it being another year before we talk to him. We're just going to have to call this guy in the middle of the summer and talk about baseball or something because I just love him that much.
Yeah, we're going to have to go whatever offseason moves that the Oakland Raiders make, whether it's firing Dennis Allen, letting go of Darren McFadden, not re-signing him, or draft moves that they make. We're going to have to get George on the phone for each and every one of those because he always brings it. George is the man. We cannot wait to have George on again.
Yeah, great stuff. And when we come up, we're going to be previewing Chiefs and Colts with Jeff Herrod, so stick around. And welcome back to The Hog, the Outsider Sports Show, and we are getting ready to bring on a very special guest, former Colt, former Ole Miss Rebel, Jeff Herrod. Welcome to the show, Jeff. How's everything going for you, man?
I've been struggling all day with a migraine, so I'm kind of relaxing and trying to get better.
Absolutely. Yep, got to take it all in. Well, I'll tell you what, we talked to you last year. Chiefs and Colts played at Arrowhead, and they're getting ready to play again here on this Sunday. Your former team, the Colts, who another very solid season under Andrew Luck. What do you see from the Colts this year? They've had some ups and downs, but they're AFC South champions. Can't go wrong there. This is a team definitely on the rise.
Well, I think that, they started out great. I think one of the big disappointments on the turnaround of the season was the Denver game when Reggie Wayne got injured. Ever since then, offensively, defensively, in the kicking game, they have struggled. It goes to show you how important a seasoned veteran like Reggie Wayne means to the team. I mean, you got a guy like that brings so much, leadership, and especially with, Luck in his sophomore year, he's not on the field or in the huddle on the field to bring so much guidance. And then, they got to beat up offensive line and the situation with the running backs with Ballard, being hurt and
Ahmad Bradshaw.
Yeah, Bradshaw and, Trent, came in mid-season, whatever, and a lot of people were having doubts about that trade. I have a lot of faith and believe in Trent, of course, the SEC guy, but, you can't have much success with the offensive line. You're only as good as your offensive line.
Yeah, I want to ask you about those injuries. You mentioned Reggie Wayne and Ahmad Bradshaw, also Dwayne Allen, tight end that was up and coming there. I wanted to ask you about Darius Hayward-Bay, Levon Brazil, Derek Rogers. They just can't. Griff Whalen. They can't seem to get anything going with the other wide receiver position opposite T.Y. Hilton.
Right. I mean, they're struggling. I mean, Hayward-Bay. He has the speed. The story with him. Being first round from the Raiders. I didn't understand. That bringing him with the Colts. There was a lot of situations. Games that I watched him. You think that he's a seasoned vet and being a professional. And a lot of balls that was thrown his way and catching the ball, with his chest is unheard of. So that right there says a lot about a receiver. You look the ball first, you catch with your hands, and so he's a veteran out there on the field, and with his lack of leadership and on the field with his performance, how can the younger guys progress? So I think that's like I said, with Reggie Wayne going down and not having that leadership, and you can't really. You look at the offensive line, you can say they're hurt, whatever, but you got to then again too look at the Pittsburgh Steelers. They're hurting in offensive line position, but then again too you got those receivers who makes up for that. Roethlisberger, pull the quick dumps and dump off to the receivers, and yards after the catch is unbelievable. So that's something that the Colts are lacking, and like I said, the receiver corps makes a big difference.
Of course, the Colts will be coming to Kansas City to take on the Chiefs at Arrowhead Stadium, a stadium I'm sure you're very familiar with, very memorable Colts-Chiefs matchups taking place there, mostly going in the Colts' favor over the years. As Indianapolis comes in here, the Chiefs are a team that's still tied for first place in their division, although not going to win the division due to a tiebreaker with Denver. But this is a matchup that could reoccur in the playoffs in the divisional round. I mean, how big is it for these teams to get kind of a feel for each other in this game on Sunday? And will it have any sort of merit or any sort of whatsoever on the rematch that could be pending in a couple weeks?
Yeah, it's a big game. I think the Colts went out. You're not only looking for just having some home field advantage. Have position, have some sort of home field advantage depending on Denver, how they went out, and obviously Kansas City. But the game is important. Is really important from the standpoint of a momentum builder for the Colts, especially offense and defense. You're facing a great offense, with the Chiefs and the Colts defense have struggled, especially against the run.
We don't really want to talk about that, Jeff. So.
I was a part of that, so I can reminisce
Of course.
And throw a little bit of that in. So
it's still painful from us fans, but it was great victory by your Colts. Still painful for us, of course.
I hope we can relive 1996. It'll be tough, but strings of things has happened. But Kansas City, like I said, is a solid team. They have all the weapons, and believe it or not, I'm a Kansas City Chief fan because they love SEC players.
Yeah, that's true. We do love that.
Well, we all know Robert Mathis is destroying everybody, leading the league in sacks, but I want to talk about two guys that maybe Chiefs fans don't really know, little lesser-known guys. Darius Butler, cornerback, and Jarrell Freeman, linebacker. Those guys are playing great, and two guys I'm definitely worried about it come Sunday.
Well, Freeman, he's playing good ball, but I look at him, he's more of a space linebacker. I don't think, my approach with him, with pretty much any linebacker in the league today, it's not like old school where you play smash mouth with the fullback and guys are taught to take on blockers. But, they're running the tag up the middle, and linebackers playing, inside the box tackle to tackle. You don't too much see great performing linebackers and from that standpoint. So, just running the ball, like most teams have been doing up the middle, the Colts have struggled. And when you have, your safeties making, 15, 16, 17 tackles, that's not good. That's a reflection on, the front seven. So they're struggling at the linebacker position, and like I said, you don't want your safeties to be leading team tackles.
Jeff, of course, you talked about the Chiefs having, many players from the Southeastern Conference. Of course, you played your college ball at Ole Miss, and we were there, of course, in Atlanta covering the SEC championship game between Missouri and Auburn, and they're honoring a bunch of SEC legends before the game, and you were there. You were on the field being honored as an SEC legend. What did that mean to you to be there in Atlanta and to have your name called before the game and just really be there in that great atmosphere and being honored as one of the greats in the SEC?
Well, it seems like you were surprised when you saw me on the field, right?
Not at all. Not at all, Jeff. If I were to peg anybody especially from Ole Miss, it would be you or Eli Manning. One of the two.
Yeah, but it was great. I got the call from the athletic director maybe 3 or 4 months ago. I never heard of the SEC legends up until about a year or so ago. An old teammate of mine from Ole Miss, Wesley Walls. He was chosen years ago, and he told me about the ceremony. So I went to Ole Miss. I'm like, what's the holdup? Why is this? They've been doing it since 1994, and so I kind of put a bug in those guys' ears. What's going on? And so he finally called me, and it was a great honor, and it was just being a part of the Southeastern Conference, being considered SEC legend, being only one of 14 players in 2013 to walk on that field and be introduced to the crowd and nationally, and just having that banquet the night before with Vern Lundquist as the MC, as hosting. I'm telling you, man, it's something that you will always cherish, to be remembered, after being displaced from college football since 1987. And here I am, 47 years old and beat up, and people still remember who I am. And not even that, I go back to Ole Miss and watch ball games, you'll be amazed. Teenagers, saying Jeff Herrod, but Ole Miss have kept my name in the media and the spotlight and kept me fresh, there with the school. And I go back there, they'll put me on the field and introduce me to the crowd. And with today's technology, they say Jeff Herrod, and all these young kids, they got their cell phones, whatever, so they can Google whatever and then do, and they're like, man, he was pretty good.
Well, I think Missouri could have used you on that field at linebacker to help stop that 545 yards rushing by Auburn.
That was a nightmare. I was cheering for Auburn because I don't like the fact that hearing so much from the Missouri fans that weekend saying that they've been in the SEC for 2 years and it's that easy to make it to the championship. But their strength of schedule, they faced Georgia and South Carolina, who obviously Georgia was struggling with injuries and whatnot, and South Carolina beat them, but they met their match with Auburn, and they was introduced to the Southeastern Conference. Granted, they got a good team, a solid team, and they did a great job. But it's only good for the SEC.
Well, Jeff, I'll tell you what, we got to get your prediction for this game on Sunday. Going to be a big win, Chiefs and Colts. We got to get your prediction and a score. How's this game going to play out, my man?
Well, I tell you, it's hard to say. You know, that running game, Charles, I tell you, this guy, he's unbelievable. You know, what he's done, you know, throughout his career. I think he's averaging over almost close to 6 yards a carry. You know, all the years that he's been in the league. I mean, that is hard to do. So you put him up there with it, you know, all-time best in the NFL. And the guy he's outstanding. And again, you got Dr. McCluster. He's you know, Ole Miss guy. He's one of my favorites. So this guy here, he's a game changer in the kicking game and offensively. So, you know, overall, the Colts got their work cut off for them, but they just have to come out and play sound offense, defense, and special team. Andrew Luck, you know, can't make the mistakes. I just think they come out and establish a run. Hopefully, Trent can get off to a good game, and that'll open up the passing game. And I think it'll be a good game. But having a young team going into those conditions is going to be tough. I mean, I saw them against Cincinnati, and it was cold, and we know the outcome there. So it's a different team than, you know, when it was 1996. We were seasoned veterans and crazy. So you know, you're dealing with a young team with a Colts now going into that environment, and it's going to be tough, but, you know, hopefully come out on top.
Well, it's going to be a big one. We're going to be watching. Jeff, can't thank you enough for joining us. Have a happy holidays. Have a great New Year, and we really appreciate you joining us, man. We'll talk soon.
Make sure to send Lynn Elliott a Christmas card.
Okay, appreciate it, man.
Thanks.
Take it easy.
Big thanks to Jeff Herrod for joining us. And Noah, when we come back from break, we're going to be talking Mizzou and Illinois. Bragging rights are on the line. One of the biggest non-conference college basketball games of each season. At the Scott Trade Center, 22,000 people, 11,000 from each side. It's all happening here. And we were going to be talking about that with former Mizzou guard Jarrett Sutton when we come back after the break. And welcome back to the Hog, KKES-FM, the Outsiders Sports Show. Clint, Switzer, and Noah Groniger being joined by one of our favorite guests, Jarrett Sutton, the former Missouri Tiger guard, talking Missouri and Illinois, all things Mizzou hoops. Jarrett, this is a big game. This is a game that people look forward to every year. The Illinois bragging rights game, it doesn't get much bigger than this, does it?
It's such a huge game, and you know, you really, what they call it bragging rights, you really do have bragging rights. It's just, you want to win so bad, and I think it's a good rivalry, and you know, it's just, you can't simulate it. There's no game really like it. Back when we were in the Big 12, obviously KU games were crazy, and you know, just crazy atmosphere, and I know we kind of had that with Arkansas last year coming to Mizzou Arena, but you just cannot simulate a game to this magnitude as much as bragging rights.
Well, of course, the Missouri Tigers were picked, I believe, 5th in the SEC this year before the season starts. Now Missouri starts 10-0. We've seen Kentucky slip a couple times, although playing very good competition. We've seen Florida lose a couple games out of the gate, although a big non-conference win over Kansas. Where do you see this Missouri team fitting in this conference? I think the SEC as a whole has been disappointing out of conference play so far this year. Where does Missouri fit in? Do you think that they can finish in the top 3, maybe even top 2 of this league?
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, I think the SEC, it is kind of a down conference. You know, I've watched some of the games, and it has been a little down. But, you know, you got Kentucky, you got Florida. I think we're in that category. I think we were in that category last year, too. But, again, we just kind of hit rough patches where we didn't close games out. And so right now I can sit here and tell you, yes, I think we could definitely fall into that top 2, top 3, top 4 category. Easily. I think we have all the talent to do that. We have young guys, but we also have 3 proven leaders that are older guys that have kind of been around the program now, and I think they're hungry after the finish they had last year. I think last year we could have had a special run, and with injuries and not finishing games out and just kind of falling apart there at the end. I think guys are hungry for this season, and so time will tell. I'm waiting for them to get tested. That's kind of my biggest thing is 10-0, 7-0 at home, 3-0 in neutral sites. We haven't played a road game yet, and I'm ready for us to kind of be in that first big game. I know this is bragging rights, but even down the road, once we get in SEC play, I think Coach Hayes always has said, and I definitely kind of agreed with him, is the SEC. I think I surprised with how physical play it is. You look at Florida, and they got the young kid, and they're just strong guys, and it's very, very physical. And I know that there's been the rule change with the officials this year with the hand checks, and they're trying to kind of clean up some of the physicality. But it's a great test for us. I think we could definitely finish in the top 2-3. But again, I'm anxious to see kind of how we do going forward. We're gonna have some big games coming up, some big road tests, and I'm anxious to see if we can answer the call. And if we can do that, this team can go anywhere.
Jarrett, I know we've got our point guard from last year, Phil Pressey's in the NBA playing with the Boston Celtics right now, and we talked about Jordan Clarkson, and a kid who's just come in. He's just such a rangy player, maybe more suited to be an off guard, but in this offense, he's really just had such a great start to the season, averaging 19 points a game. Can you compare his game to Phil Pressey's? Because we saw Phil Pressey last year, although he kept Missouri in a lot of games, he struggled to finish games and struggled to put Missouri in situations to win games last year. How do you feel about Jordan Clarkson and how his game kind of compares to Phil's, and how we may actually wind up being a little bit better off with a guy like Clarkson at the point guard?
Yeah, I think with Jordan, number one, you get a bigger sized guard, and I think Phil and Jordan just differ because Phil, he kind of has instincts and his all those playmaking abilities, and he was kind of turnover prone. He tried to make the home run play a little too often, but obviously the guy's playing in the NBA as a backup point guard for the Boston Celtics. He's a great player. I think Jordan's a pro too. If you were to ask me right now if he could play in the league, I would 100% say he could. He's just a great athlete. Number one, he can finish at the rim. He can kind of take over games if he wants to, but he also can create and get other guys involved. Which, from a point guard perspective, Jordan gives you that scoring threat where he can have the ball, go to the basket, pull up, shoot threes, whatever, and get to the foul line, whatever it may be, and he can score at a high rate. Obviously, like you said, he's averaging 19 a game. But at the same time, he can also distribute and get guys involved. I mean, I think he leads us in assists this season, so he's going to have to be the one too that also creates for other guys. And when things are going in a negative direction for us, he's going to have to be that one to kind of answer the call and get us going, get us into offense. And I think the big thing that the difference is last year, Phil, when there was those times where he had to be a point guard and have to make the right decision when the clock was running down, and so many times he didn't make that right decision. He'd shoot bad shots, and he'd have some ill-advised turnovers. And so I think that's a big test for Jordan. Is there's so many things that a point guard has to do. He's the quarterback on the floor. He's got to know time and score. He's got to know what's a good shot for him. He's got to know when to get us an offense. He's got to know when to attack. He's the most important guy on the floor. So I think he's done a great job so far this season. So I couldn't be more happy. I think they do differ in ways, but I also think they're so similar in ways that they're just playmaking players, and they do it in different ways. Jordan's more of a scoring threat, but he also has done very well, I think, in getting us going, getting us an offense. He's also helped out with rebounds as well. So he's a great player, and I kind of remember Lawrence telling me about Jordan when he was redshirted, and Lawrence would say, "Man, this guy is a pro. He is just destroying it in practice. He's so good." So I kind of knew that this was going to happen. I knew he was going to get his shot, and I've seen how hard Jordan works, and he's a great player. So we'll see how he fares going forward, but a great start to the year for him.
Well, Jarrett, before we let you go, certainly got to get your prediction for this bragging rights game. These games are always close. We've seen games go down to the wire. Always seems to come down to the last few minutes, which makes it all the more exciting. Who wins this game? I think I already know the answer to that, but what's the score, and how do you see it playing out?
Yeah, so it's kind of funny. I remember getting asked this question last year, and I think I was off by like 5 points.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping that...
That's why I'm asking again. Exactly.
I'm hoping I come close, but I got us winning. I do got us winning. I do think we're the better team. I do think if we do what we're supposed to do, and this is what we did last year, we played our style and our brand, and actually we played one of the best games we had played up until that point.
Yeah.
And we let Illinois back in the game. I think we were up like 15, and we were on our way to a blowout, and then we let them back in the game. So, like you said, this is gonna every game. Even my senior year, my junior year, we get up double digits, and boy, got Mizzou by 8. That's what I'm going to go with. I'm going to say something around 76, 68, somewhere in there. And I got Mizzou pulling it out and going to 11-0 going into the holidays.
Hey, sounds great, Jarrett. That'd be a great Christmas present for all of us, and we certainly hope you have a wonderful holiday season. We can't thank you enough for joining us. Insight is always great. The former Tiger, Jarrett Sutton, thanks so much for joining us. Have a great holiday season, my man.
Hey, thanks, guys. I appreciate it.
All right, we'll talk to you, Jarrett. Have a good one.
All right.
Awesome to hear from Jarrett Sutton talking about this game. Noah, this game's a toss-up every year. Right now, Missouri comes into the game ranked 23rd in the nation. Illinois has 2 losses, albeit to Georgia Tech, a not-so-good team, but also to Oregon, a very good team on the road, and they stayed in that game. Illinois, I think that Coach Gross has this team, that they're going to be a viable Big Ten team. I don't think they're going to be – I think they're going to be on the – I think this is a bubble NCAA team. I think they're going to be 8-10, 9-9 in the league, something like that. Missouri's going to have their hands full, depending on the guard play. The thing of it is, Missouri with these rangy guards, Jordan Clarkson, Jabari Brown, Ernest Ross, we'll see if Illinois is able to shoot over them. They've got some pieces. I like Bertrand coming back. We'll see. I think Missouri, like Jarrett talked about, winning in a close game. That's what I'm going to predict so far. These games are always close, so pretty easy to predict that.
Yeah, Illinois' got 3 good guards of their own, but not quite as good as Missouri's 3-headed guard tandem there. But they struggle down low. Jonathan Williams for Missouri, the freshman, is definitely going to have his way, I believe, in this game, and that's going to be the difference. I don't see Brandon Paul coming out of the stands and putting on an Illinois jersey to help out the Fighting Illini. That might be their only chance. I don't see that happening, so I definitely have Missouri in this pretty comfortably, 10 or so.
We talked about Jonathan Williams, and obviously I think he's coming along as a freshman. His rebounding, has been superb. The thing of it is, Missouri's going to need another one of these guys to come up, and that's going to. You're talking about, Rosberg or Keanu Post, Tony Criswell. Someone's going to have to come in and really take control down in the paint, because there's going to be times where Missouri, the shot's not falling. The threes aren't going down for Jabari Brown, Ernest Ross, Jordan Clarkson. They're going to need that, and right now, aside from Williams, it's just kind of. It's not what Missouri had last year in Lawrence Bowers and Alex Oriaki. Okay, let's put it that way. So, you talk about Illinois struggling down low. Missouri doesn't have a dominant presence, and it'd be nice to have a guy like 6'11", junior college, 4-star recruit Keanu Post to start playing well. Hasn't happened yet. We'll see how that works, but it's going to be crazy in St. Louis. Can't wait for that. Chiefs, of course, hosting the Colts here on Sunday. The last home game, the last chance for Chiefs fans to get out there and get their tailgating on, to get their win before the game, to feel that atmosphere, to maybe try to break the sound record again. A win is secondary for these people? I don't know. Let's get one, though. We need it.
Yeah, the Chiefs are desperate for this win, more so than the Colts. The Colts are stuck in either the 3 or 4 slot, so it's there's not much movement possibility for them. But the Kansas City Chiefs can hope and pray that the Denver Broncos lose to the hapless Houston Texans or the hapless Oakland Raiders in their last 2 games. If they lose one, the Chiefs beat the Colts coming up tomorrow and can beat the Chargers next week. If they win out, then they can be the number 1 seed in the National Football League playoffs for the AFC. Doesn't seem like that's likely to happen, as the Denver Broncos should crush the Texans and Raiders. But the Chiefs got to win this and just cross their fingers that one of those things can happen.
No, it's all I want for Christmas, and we'll see how it shakes out. Hope everybody has a wonderful and safe, happy holiday season, all of that. Spend it with your family. Spend it in front of the TV watching some of these great games, because it's going to be fun. Next week we're going to be talking about all the big bowl games, the BCS, as that is on the horizon. So we hope you have a very Merry Christmas. The Outsider Sports Show, Clint, Switzer, and Noah are going to be sure to check us out. All of our stuff. It's all over the internet. Just Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. I don't even know all of them.
Pinterest. We're everywhere.
My phone apps can't handle all of that. I'll tell you what. Have a great holiday season. Good night, everybody, from the Hog.